Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and this is the Genesis G80. Now, a bit of a history lesson for you, because the G80 is not the first executive saloon Genesis has brought to the UK. Hyundai back in 2015 created Genesis as kind of a sub-brand that sat along Hyundai and brought the Hyundai Genesis to the UK to go against the likes of the BMW 5 Series, Audi A6 and Mercedes E-Class. And it was a bit of a flop. I mean, if you're driving those executive saloons, you're not going to look the way of the Koreans. So give it a few years, and in 2021, Genesis have tried it again as their own brand. Yes, still part of Hyundai Group, but they came armed to the teeth and prepared to match their German rivals. So I've got the first car they brought back to the UK and Europe, the G80. And well, I've had it for a week, and I'm going to let you know what it's all about and if it can still compete with its German rivals. Now, when it comes to the G80 styling, I do think Genesis have hit the nail on the head. This definitely looks like it means business and wouldn't look out of place in the manager's car park. It's got the big bold grille at the front and the split headlights to mimic the Genesis badge, something we've all become used to, but that is a grille that will rival an Audi's. Now, one thing I will say that does give it more of a German look as opposed to a Korean look is this Malaku grey paint, which is a metallic optional extra. And I'll be honest, yes, it does look great with the car, but it doesn't make it stand out. And if you see here, I had the electrified G80 last week, and well, that definitely stood out more than this grey metallic. And I do love the fact that Genesis do offer some really nice bold colour options. But yeah, it just has a really good look to it, and as you can tell, it is of course the saloon brother to the GV80 SUV. But let me know what you think of the G80's looks in the comments section below, and yeah, I think it's now time we go sit inside and have a look at that interior. Sat in the front of the G80, you are greeted by a very comfortable, very luxurious feeling, high quality interior that's jam-packed full of kit. Now, of course, this being a saloon car and not a big SUV, it does mean you sit a little bit lower to the ground, but getting in and out of the G80 is actually really nice and easy. And then once you get yourself into the driver's seat, you find that the seats themselves are incredibly comfortable with a huge amount of adjustment. Now, I have got the optional Napa leather and comfort seat options fitted to this car, so it means there's a huge amount of adjustment and they are very comfortable. So it does mean you can get the perfect driving position. Even the steering has electric adjustment, and it means, again, getting the perfect driving position is very easy. Now, when it comes to interior quality, this is another highlight to the G80. Now, because I've got the luxury trim, I have got leatherette here on the dash, I've got real wood here on the dash and center console, soft touch plastics here on top of the doors, and leatherette again on the door panels and on the center armrest. And as I mentioned, I have got Napa leather on the seats as an optional extra. So it does feel like a really high quality product in here, and even on the A-pillar and on the roof lining, it does feel like Alcantara. So again, that quality is not just to things you see down here on the dashboard, it's actually up here as well. So yeah, when you get yourself in the G80, you do find that it feels like a very nice and special place to be. Cubby spaces here in the G80 are actually pretty decent. Now, we've got some good sized door pockets. Now, they're not lined with any fabric, but they are soft touch plastics. So it does mean if you do put a couple of loose items in there, they shouldn't really make much noise, but they are large enough to get up to a medium sized bottle of drink in there. Now, on the center console up front, we have got a little lid here that slides back, and it unveils two USB-A charging inputs and a wireless charging pad. And what I do like is that you can have your phone in there and close it up, and no one can see anything. Now, with the G80, you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The only thing that's a little bit disappointing is that it's tethered only, it's not wireless. Then just a little bit back on the left-hand side, we have got another lid, and when I open it, unveils two cup holders, which are of a decent size and depth. They are rubber lined as well, and we've got a couple of little plastic grippers to hold your bottle in place, so I really do like that. And then we have got your center armrest, which when I press the little button, opens to unveil a little tray area, which is very handy. So I'll just show you that there, and you can remove it. But it's actually a decent amount of space in here. We have got a 12-volt socket as well, and it is all lined with fabric. So again, loose items shouldn't make much noise when they're in there. We have then got the glove box, which is lockable, which I do like. Now it is an okay size. There is a little clip there for your pen, and it is lined with fabric, but it's not the biggest. However, you don't get a book pack in there. It's actually kept in the boot. But also, if you don't want to leave the car and go grab the manual, you can download via a QR code on the infotainment system. So I do like that. And then we got your traditional sunglasses holder up here. And also, and I kind of found this by accident, we got this little kind of tray area kind of hidden away here where the button is for the center armrest. But there's a cute little nook in there which you can actually put your car key, and it will rest in there whilst you're driving. So that is actually quite cool and handy. However, you could possibly lose some loose change down there, and it can be a bit awkward and fiddly to get it out. But when it comes to the cubby spaces here in the G80, yeah, they are really impressive. Now, something I do like about the G80's interior is a nice mix between physical and touch-sensitive buttons, with the emphasis being on the former. So on the dashboard, we have got some physical shortcut buttons for the infotainment system, some buttons here for the dual zone climate control, and some physical rotary knobs to adjust the temperature. But in the center, we actually have a nice little touchscreen display. I do really like the graphics and how it's presented, but I will mention some of the icons are a little bit small and fiddly and do take a little bit of getting used to. But once you're used to it, it's absolutely fine, even when on the move. Now here on the center console, we have got your gear select. We've got your interface here for the infotainment system with, again, some physical shortcut buttons, and also a couple of buttons here for the drive assist. So your drive mode select, your cameras, and your parking sensors. Then on the steering wheel, we've got physical buttons again. On the left-hand side, they do your media and communication controls. And on the right-hand side, they do your driver data display and also your radar-guided cruise control. And then on the right-hand side, we've got a couple of buttons here for your electric handbrake, your engine start-stop, and also the boot release and traction control. So yeah, when it comes to that nice mixture of physical buttons and touch-sensitive buttons, there's more physical than touch-sensitive, but it is actually just, well, really nicely laid out. Now there is one other button I will mention, and it's part of the executive pack, and it's up here, and that actually raises and lowers the blind at the back there for your passengers. So I do like that feature, and not only that, but your rear passengers can control that as well. So yeah, being sat here with all these buttons and everything feels very old school with a hint of modern in there. And finally, we've got the infotainment system and the digital dashboard display. Now, the infotainment screen is a 14.5-inch display, and it sits high up and proud on the dash, and it is very clear and easy to read when on the move. And you operate it using this little rotary dial, which is also a D-pad and touchpad as well, to operate it whilst you're driving. I will also mention it is actually a touch screen as well, which is very handy, but I recommend using it when you're stationary as a touch screen, because you've got to lean quite far forward in order to operate it. But using this swivel pad and everything actually makes it very easy to use, and it is very, well, functional and ergonomic whilst you're driving, so I really do like that. I will mention this is actually a little bit different in design compared to what I saw on the electrified G80. But yeah, the infotainment system is actually really nice and clear and easy to use. You have got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and what I like as well is when I got CarPlay up on the screen, it only takes up 2/3 of the screen, and on the right hand side you can customize it and add some additional kind of bits of information, whether it be sports, the sat nav system, or perhaps even the weather. So I do like that. Also, when you adjust your seat and you touch on it, it does actually come up on that screen to know what buttons you're pressing and what you're adjusting, even the massage seat function as well. So yeah, it is actually a really lovely system. And then we've got the digital dashboard display, which in typical Genesis fashion does come with a 3D option, which does take a little bit of getting used to. And I actually have found with wearing glasses, the system can't quite detect sometimes where my pupils are. So I keep it in 2D, and it is still really lovely and clear, and I do love the animations. Yes, it's not as versatile as something you get from a Volkswagen Group system, but I really do like the animations. And when you go from things like comfort to eco to sport, I do like how it changes the dials. The sport does look very sporty. So yeah, sat here in the front of the G80 is just a really lovely place to be. And yeah, it just feels quite special as well. But you know what? There's enough of sitting here in the front of the G80. Let's see what it's like in those back seats. Sat in the back of the G80, it's actually surprisingly spacious and comfortable back here, despite what you're seeing at the moment. I'm also sat behind the front passenger seat because I want to show off some of the features from the executive pack which has been fitted to this car. So firstly, I can increase my knee room because I can manually move the front passenger seat, so the emphasis is on myself. And with that executive pack, it really does put priority to the rear passengers rather than who's up front. So straight away, I've got a massive amount of knee room, but headroom is surprisingly tight. So if you are 6 foot tall, yes, you might struggle in here. And I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide. Now, I do recommend as well having 2 adults sat in the back of the G80 with the executive pack, and also 2 kids as well, because I don't think they'd want to sit in this middle seat and have to navigate over this big transmission tunnel. Now, when it comes to storage features, it's not too bad back here. We got some okay sized door pockets. Again, they're not lined with any fabric, but they have got soft plastic, so you can get a small to medium sized bottle of drink in there. We have got our aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats, and also, if I bring this centre armrest forward, I have already opened up the 2 extra cup holders, but we've also got a bit of space here in the centre. Now, it's a little bit smaller compared to the electrified G80, where they actually had a massive bit of space here, but we have got a wireless charging pad, which is very handy, and we have got a bit of space here which is lined with fabric, where we got a USB-A and 2 aux-in cable slots for your headphones, which is very handy. And as you can see, we've actually got the same interface that we've got up front. So when you're sat back here, you can control the infotainment system, the sat nav, the climate control. You've got a huge amount of control back here, and I really do like it. So some of the features that we've got on here is that we can operate the rear blinds, so therefore we can have a bit of privacy back here. We have got blinds as well for the windows on the side because they're not tinted. We have got the same rotary knob here and dial, so again, I can go through the infotainment system, which is sat here on the back of the front seats. I've got heated and ventilated seats here in the back. On the electrified G80, it's just heated, but there is also one extra bonus feature back here, which is I can actually recline the seats. And yeah, just kind of laze around and relax back here, which I really do like. I have also got tri-zone climate control, which can be nice and cool or warm back here. And I have got through loading into the boot area. So yeah, being sat back here in the G80 is actually really lovely with that executive pack to give emphasis on the rear passengers. Now, something I will mention as well is that being sat back here, there is more space compared to the electrified G80 because we haven't got batteries underneath the floor. So it actually means that you can stretch your legs out and get comfortable. So I really do like that. So yeah, it is really lovely. And the final thing I'll mention is actually the sunroof, which is really heavily polarized. So it actually means you don't get any sun glare coming into the cabin. So yeah, it is actually a really lovely space here in the back of the G80. We have still got the Lexicon sound system here as well. And yeah, it's just really nice. And you know what? I think that's enough of being sat here in the back of the G80. Let's see what the boot is like. Opening the boot of the G80 presents you with 424 litres of space, which sounds pretty impressive, but when compared to its German rivals, it is lagging a bit behind, but it is more than the G80 electric. Now, when you got the boot open, of course, you realise it is a saloon car, so it's not got a massive opening than you would expect from a traditional hatchback. However, it is nice, wide and square. So you can get a couple of suitcases into the boot of the G80, or definitely a few weekend bags, and they'll easily take a week shopping. Now, there's a little bit of a boot lip to navigate over, which isn't too bad when unloading any heavy items. And when it comes to features, well, there's only a couple of them. So we have got some tethering hooks and a couple of bits of netted areas on each side of the boot, but there's no 12-volt socket. Now we have got a tiny bit of underfloor storage. Again, you've got the book pack here and a tyre puncture repair kit. And as I mentioned, there is a little bit of through loading into the rear passenger area, but because of that executive pack, you can't get the rear seats down. So yeah, in terms of practicality, it does fall behind some of its rivals, but it is more than what you get in the electrified G80. But on that note, I think it's time that we close this boot down and take the G80 for a drive. But before we do, I will mention that this has got the Hyundai Group trick where you can actually make the G80 move without being in the car using just the key fob. And that's a feature I really do like and is very quirky if you're in a tight parking space. But anyway, on with the drive. So once you start driving the G80, first impressions are actually very positive. It's a very nice, comfortable executive saloon. Now, just like the electrified G80 I've already reviewed, visibility is very good. Now, even though this isn't an SUV, I've got a very good view of the road ahead. The A-pillars are not too thick, and I haven't found myself looking around them at any junctions. The wing mirrors are of a really lovely size and shape. I have got blind spot monitoring, and of course, this being a Hyundai Group car, I have got my blind spot cameras that come up on the digital dash display. I really do love that feature. Then when I look over my shoulder, I do find that the C-pillar is actually not too thick, so it doesn't create too much of a blind spot. Fortunately, I got that blind spot monitoring there, and rear visibility is actually really good as well. Now, it is a little bit different compared to the electrified G80. The headrests actually don't obscure any of the rear visibility, so that's a real positive there. So yeah, all round visibility in the G80, the petrol version of the G80, is really good, just like the electrified version. So yeah, once you get going, first impressions, very positive. Now, there are 3 trim levels to choose from in the G80 range. There's the entry-level premium, the mid-range sport, and the top-of-the-range luxury, which is what I've got here. And I'll be honest, the entry-level premium has a huge amount of standard equipment ready to go. And even when you go to the luxury, you just get a few more just niceties with the car. Now, the one thing I do like about Genesis is that you can order optional packs to put on your car to really make it your own, not just with the exterior color and interior dashboard trim. So I really do like that. Now, if you want to know what's on this particular car, please check out the description, but I've pretty much got everything. I got comfort seat pack, executive pack, convenience pack. I've got the sunroof. I've got the Lexicon sound system, which is, oh, lovely. I recommend that every single time. And as a result, there's nothing more than that I would want on the car. Now, granted that, yes, that does raise the price, but it's still a huge amount of metal for your money. And you know what? This just feels like a lovely premium place to be. I love the fact that on this luxury, we have got real wood on the dash. It is leatherette on the dashboard, but it feels really good. So in my personal opinion, look at the premium, perhaps add some packs onto it and see how you are with that. If you go for the sport, of course, you're going to get some sporty features to the exterior and interior of the car. But if you just want to waft around, then yeah, the luxury is the way to go. And I really have been enjoying this luxury spec on this G80. In fact, I have told the guys at the press fleet who run the cars and the drivers, I don't want to give it back. I mean, in honesty, I said, give me the electrified version, because when I talk about the ride and refinement later on, that is just very special. But even in this, it's a real positive, and it is just a lovely place to be. Now, when it comes to powering the G80, there is just one engine available. It is a 2.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, producing 300 brake horsepower and 422 Newton meters of torque, which means that this large executive saloon will get from 0 to 62 miles per hour in around 6 seconds, so it is pretty brisk. However, I will say that the engine it's possibly the G80's Achilles heel. Now, that engine and that power goes through an 8-speed automatic. That is the only transmission available to the rear wheels as standard, but there is an all-wheel drive version of the G80 available. But they have killed off the diesel. It is petrol only with the G80, just like its SUV brother, the GV80. Now, the reason I say this is the Achilles heel to the car is because it's a petrol engine only. There is no mild, full, or plug-in hybrid available like its rivals do offer. So, as a result, yes, the performance is lovely. It's very refined, very smooth with that 8-speed auto, but it's not the most frugal. In fact, Genesis say I should get around 30 to 31 miles per gallon on a combined cycle, which is poor in this day and age. And I'll be honest, driving around to and fro from work, I've been getting around 28 to 32 mpg. Now, the best I've been able to achieve when I've got it in eco, and not quite driving like Miss Daisy, but, you know, being careful, I did manage 36, 37 on a couple of occasions, but those were quite short trips and I was being very light with my right foot. So yeah, it is a very nice engine. I do like it, but the G80 is crying out for hybridization, especially in the form as a full hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, because I definitely think Genesis could put a decent sized battery under the floor, or perhaps under the boot or rear seats, so you could get maybe, I don't know, 50 and 70 miles just on electric range. I think that would be the goal to aim for. But as an engine and mated to the car, it does feel nice. Like I said, it is smooth, it is refined with the 8-speed auto, which I can change manually using the flappy paddles. It is actually a joy, but it's just the fact you're going to be visiting the petrol station more often than its German rivals, so just be aware of that. Now, I will quickly mention, if you go for the electrified version of the G80, that has a combined range of around 323 miles, but I managed to get over 300 miles on a full charge, so I was actually really impressed with that. But if you drive it in a nice, comfortable fashion, particularly around towns and in urban environments, you will gain some extra miles over a period of time. But again, if you want to watch my review of the electrified G80, just click up there to watch my review there, or click on the link at the end of this video. Right. So what's the ride and refinement like in the G80? Well, the first thing I'll mention is that Genesis don't try and sell the G80 as a sporty saloon car. The way it rides and with a refinement, it's definitely built to be a comfy cruiser and just waft you to your destination. Having things like the executive pack means that your passengers in the back can just sit there in peace and quiet and be very comfortable, whilst the driver just, well, does his job and drives. So the ride and refinement are very good. It's a very comfortable place to be. Now, I will mention that there are 3 drive modes available, and there's no normal mode. Now, actually, there is a 4th drive mode, which is snow, but we're not going to have that today. But the ones initially, when you press the button, are comfort, eco, and sport. And you're going to spend most of your time in comfort, because that does exactly what you want it to do. It's a very comfortable place to be. There is a little bit of body float. It is very wafty, but do you know what? On the motorways, it is really lovely. Sorry, I got a couple of people here who are jogging. At least they're looking very colourful. So yeah, in comfort mode, it's just really lovely. Now, in eco mode, it does stiffen the suspension a little bit. I won't say stiffen, it just puts a little bit of firmness there, because it wants the G80 to kind of cut through the air and be as refined as possible. And this actually has a pretty decent drag coefficient. I think it's about 0.27, so that is pretty decent. And then you've got sport, which of course it does firm up the suspension, puts a bit of weight in the steering. The side bolsters do actually grip you and hold you in place, but you're really only going to do that to kind of show off with perhaps a new passenger in the car. For the most time, you're going to be just, driving around in comfort or eco. And it is just really lovely. It deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. At low speed, you can feel some of those bumps and imperfections make their way into the cabin. It's not uncomfortable though. These seats really do take a massive part of the sting out of the kind of imperfections in the road, which is a real blessing because I've got 20-inch alloy wheels and I've got sporty Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's on this car as well, and that's a serious tyre for this type of car. So yeah, when it comes to the ride comfort, I am very impressed with it. It does deal with the bumps and imperfections really well, and then as you get up to speed, it does settle down, which I really do like. And then comes the refinement, which is also another highlight here in the G80. Now, as I get going, what I'll do is I'll put it into sport mode, and I'll just put my foot down so you can hear the engine kick into the cabin. Okay, I'll say you can hear the engine. I actually think that sound piped through the speakers, but you know what? It's a nice noise. But even if I'm in comfort mode and I put my foot down, yes, I can hear the engine, but it's not too intrusive and it very quickly settles down. So yeah, when it comes to the refinement side, yes, engine noise is going to be one of the factors to deal with. You're not going to deal with that, of course, on the electrified G80, but you get a little bit in the way of tyre roar coming into the cabin, but really, I've not heard anything in the way of wind noise. So it's actually a surprisingly refined saloon car to drive, especially in petrol guise. Although I will say, when it comes to the ride and refinement between this and the electrified G80, oh boy, is the electrified one just on a completely different level. It's just so quiet, so refined. It deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. The suspension setup is just wonderful, but that's not taking anything away from this petrol version. I'm just saying, between the two, you can see why the electrified one does cost a bit more. But just for driving on the motorway, just doing any kind of daily driving in this petrol version of the G80, I have been really impressed by it. It is a very comfortable car to be in, and a surprisingly refined one as well. So what about the G80's handling? Well, as I said before, Genesis are not trying to push this car as a sporty saloon car. It is a comfortable executive saloon. But when I put it into sport mode, you do find that when it corners, it does feel very planted. There's hardly any roll or lean as well. Now, if you have got it in eco or comfort mode, yeah, there is roll and lean in the corners because it is in a very comfortable state. But in sport mode, I am very surprised by it. Now, it's not going to be a 5 Series. That's not the aim of this car. But the steering does feel nice and direct, and the suspension has firmed up. The only thing I would say is, compared to the electrified G80, even in sport mode, the steering feels a little bit lighter. And as a result, I don't have that full connection that I would do in the electrified version. So that's something that has surprised me. But the petrol version of the G80 does feel lighter, therefore it feels more agile in the corners. And yes, it does give you a bit more in terms of reward. But as I said, it's not that type of car. And when I got it in manual mode, it's actually very quick going through the gears. I really do like it. And I do like what they do with the dials as well. That is a nice look to it. Traditional, but still very sporty. So yeah, with the handling, it is absolutely fine for day-to-day driving. When you've got it in eco or comfort, you'll have no issues whatsoever. It's light enough so it's easy to park, but there is enough feedback in there that you can chuck it into some corners and get a little bit of a reward back for putting your effort in. So yeah, it's not a sporty saloon, but it doesn't feel detached like a video game. It's absolutely fine and lovely for this type of car. Although I am now going to put it into comfort mode, and the side bolsters have released me and I can relax. So what have been some of the highlights and some of the little niggles I've come across living with the G80 this week? Well, highlights, definitely the looks. Because Genesis don't sell to this part of the country just yet, not many people have seen them, and as a result, this really does turn heads. Now, not quite as much as the electrified version, and I think the metallic grey has something to do with that, because with this grey, it does look, as I said before, very Germanic. It doesn't stand out quite as much. However, that big chrome grille does actually help. So yeah, this has really turned heads, and just like the electrified version, I'm pretty sure I've nearly caused a couple of accidents with it. Also, I love all the comfort and convenience features, the driving aids, the safety features you get on this car. This is a really safe car to be in, and if safety is important to you, you've got to look at the Genesis brand. Now, a couple of the safety features can be a little bit intrusive, especially if you go above the speed limit, even by 1 mile an hour. You do get a few bongs coming into the cabin. Secondly, as well, if you are driving on the motorway, you have got highway drive assist, where it will actually change lanes for you, but it is just a little bit slow. It's perfect when you're driving, say, in low traffic environments or at night, but if it's perhaps rush hour, don't use that feature. Just indicate and change lanes yourself. And then there's also like all the quirky convenience features. I love the fact that I got a blind at the back with the executive pack, but not only that, when it's gone up, great, it gives you some privacy, but when you slow down, it actually drops to help with your visibility. I really love that feature. Also, I love the blind spot cameras. I know it's a Hyundai Group thing, but I absolutely love them. And also, tell me another car that when you put it into reverse and it's nighttime, that it projects lights onto the road so people can see that you're reversing and they see the direction you're going. And not only that, it comes up on the camera, so it provides you with a guide as well. I just really love these little quirky convenience features. I am gutted, however, that when it comes to the massage feature on this G80 that I've got, it doesn't tell me about the pelvic stretching. It just says pelvis, body, or all of it. So I'm a little bit gutted by that, because pelvic stretching, as I've said before in other videos, you know, is perfect for getting ready for your third date. But other than that, no, I've been really impressed by it. You can feel that there's more space in here compared to the electrified G80, especially in the boot and for rear passengers with that executive pack. But still, as an executive saloon, I really do like it. As I said before, the Achilles heel to this car is what's under the bonnet there. So what are my thoughts on the Genesis G80? Well, on a personal level, I really like this car. I love the looks, I love the comfort and all the features that the car provides you with. I'm definitely showing my age when I say I could really enjoy and live with the G80. And I think as well, somebody perhaps at retirement age, because of the looks of the car, would really enjoy the benefits of the G80. It's a very comfortable and it's a lovely place to be. Now, from a business perspective, because there are going to be those who drive 5 Series, A6s and E-classes, perhaps considering the G80, it's that lump under the bonnet that's going to put them off. It's going to be the economy, because without that hybridization that its rivals do offer, it just can't compete. And I was really gutted, because the engine itself is just really lovely. It's smooth, refined and very pokey when you put your foot down, but it just doesn't offer that economy back for you. So yeah, I do love the G80. I love the looks, I love the comfort features, but I know against its German rivals it can be hard to recommend. Unless of course you go for the electrified G80, in which case you get all the refinement and comfort levels. In fact, they are improved in the electrified G80, but you get the fact that you've got yourself an electric car with over 300 miles of range, really good charging capabilities, and cost for cost, but more actually. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Genesis G80. As always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. Of course, if you've got any questions about the G80 and my time with it, please put them down in the comments section below and I'll do my utmost to answer. Don't forget, I am on social media as well, with Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, so don't forget to follow me on there as well for additional content. But I have really enjoyed the G80. It is a fun and very comfortable car to drive and live with, but we just need to sort out that engine. But in the meantime, guys, have yourselves a wonderful day and I'll catch you all in the next video. So take care, everybody, and bye-bye.